Have you ever stopped to think about what you're really made of? I mean, down to the tiniest, most fundamental level. Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into today. We're talking about biological chemistry, basically the ultimate recipe for life itself. So let's just dive right in. Okay, so take a look at this picture. You see the bee, you see the poppy. What's so amazing is that the very same chemical reactions happening inside that flower, well, they're also happening inside that bee. And believe it or not, they're happening inside you this very second. It's this incredible shared chemistry that connects literally every living thing on Earth. So the fancy name for all this is biological chemistry, or you'll often hear it called biochemistry. And look, this isn't some dry, abstract thing you'd only find in a textbook. No way. This is the science of us. It's the study of the actual molecules that build our bodies, that fuel our every move, and that, make us, well, us. And that really brings us to the big question, right? If we're going to stick with this idea that life is like a recipe, then what are the essential ingredients? What are those absolute must-have chemical components that make the whole thing work? Well, it turns out it all boils down to four main groups of what I like to call superstar molecules. We're talking about carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. You can think of them like this. They're the flour, the sugar, the eggs, and maybe the recipe card itself for this incredible complex cake that is any living thing. All right, let's start with the fuel. First up, we've got the ingredients that are all about energy, carbohydrates and lipids. These are the molecules that keep the engine running. So, carbohydrates, you probably know them as sugars or starches. These are your body's go-to for a quick burst of energy. Chemically, they're pretty simple, just carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Whether it's the starch in a potato or the sweet stuff in an apple, carbs are what our cells grab first when they need power, like right now. And here's a really cool way to see this in action. I've got a fun little puzzle for you. Why is it that a can of regular soda will sink if you put it in water, but a can of diet soda floats? I mean, they're the exact same size, right? What's going on there? The answer is the sugar. It's all about the carbohydrates. There is so much sugar packed into that can of regular soda that it literally makes the liquid denser than water, and so it sinks. The tiny bit of artificial sweetener in the diet version, it weighs next to nothing, so it just floats. It's a perfect, simple way to see just how much stuff, how much fuel is actually in there. Okay, so besides carbs, we've got another major fuel source, lipids. You know them as fats and oils. And if carbs are the sprinters for quick energy, lipids are the marathon runners. They're all about long-term energy storage. And boy, do they pack a much bigger punch in a smaller package. And believe me, this isn't just something you learn in a biology class. The science of identifying these molecules is used all the time in the real world. Think about forensics. Crime labs use these exact principles to identify organic compounds and evidence they find at a crime scene. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, so we've covered the fuel. Now let's talk about the builders. If carbs and lipids are the gasoline, proteins are the actual workers on the construction site. They are the body's microscopic builders, its movers, and even its security guards. Now, the key thing to get about proteins is that they're basically these incredibly complex little machines, and they're all built from smaller units called amino acids. It's just like Legos. You have these little blocks, and the specific order you snap them together in determines whether you build a car, a house, or a spaceship. Same with proteins. The sequence of amino acids decides exactly what the protein does. And I just love this way of looking at it. Proteins aren't just stuff. They're not passive materials, no. They're active players in pretty much everything your body does. They're the builders giving you structure, and they're the tiny machines carrying out all these absolutely vital jobs. And their job description? Oh, it's enormous. I mean, they provide the structure for your hair, your skin, your muscles. They act as enzymes, which basically just speed up all the chemical reactions your body needs to survive. Everything from digesting your lunch to copying your DNA. They're responsible for carrying oxygen in your blood. And they're also the antibodies that fight off infections. They do it all. And let's bring it back to forensics for a second. That last job, defending the body, is so important. You see, the specific proteins on the surface of your red blood cells are what determine your blood type. So when a crime scene investigator gets a blood sample, what they're really looking at is its unique protein signature. Okay, so let's recap. We've got fuel and we've got builders. But hang on a second. What tells the builders what to build? And what kind of power do they actually run on? That brings us to our final couple of ingredients, the nucleic acids and the cell's own energy currency. This is where nucleic acids come into play. And you definitely know the most famous one of all, DNA. You've got to think of DNA as the master blueprint. It's this gigantic, brilliant molecule that holds all the instructions for building every single protein your body will ever need. And because that blueprint is totally unique to you and me and everyone else, it's the ultimate identifier. This is why entire forensic investigations can come down to matching the DNA blueprint found at a crime scene to a single suspect. It really is the ultimate chemical fingerprint. All right, so DNA has the instructions. The proteins are the workers, ready to get started, but they need to get paid, right? They need power. Now, we get our overall energy from carbs and lipids, sure, but the cell needs a specific, usable form of energy, and that molecule is called ATP. The best way to think of it is like the cash, the dollar bill that powers everything inside the cell. And the system is just like a rechargeable battery. It's brilliant. Think of ATP as a fully charged battery, ready to go. When a cell needs to do something, anything, it uses up that energy, and the battery becomes ADP, which is kind of like a drained battery. But then, the energy we get from our food comes along and recharges that ADP right back into ATP. So it's this constant, non-stop cycle of charging up and spending down. So let's bring it all home. Let's look at the whole recipe. You've got your fuel. That's the carbohydrates and lipids. You've got your builders. Those are the proteins. You have the code, the DNA blueprint, that tells the builders exactly what to do. And finally, you have the power, the ATP that pays for all that work to get done. That, right there, is the fundamental recipe of you. But here's what's maybe the most important thing to remember. None of these ingredients just sits there on its own. They don't work in isolation. Life isn't just a list of parts. It's the result of all these molecules constantly and dynamically interacting with each other. The fuel gets burned to provide the power to read the code, which then tells the builders what to do. See? It's all connected. And that leaves us with one last big, fascinating question to chew on. If these are the essential ingredients, and all those reactions are how they're used, then what is the recipe itself? What is that spark, that magic property that takes this collection of chemicals and turns it into, well, into a living, thinking, feeling you? Now that is something to think about.